Welcome back for another lesson here at Krupi's Corner. This is percent of a number mentally, but these are the tougher ones. I call them I just separated into group 2 here. So all of these are percents that are less than 1. You're finding, for example, half a percent, a quarter of a percent. These are all less than 1, and that involves that you find the 1% of a number first. So you have your cheat sheet here. This was the first group that we did, the easier group, where there's nothing less than 1. You can see here 1% is kind of the least we had done. But now we've got the tougher ones. So for example, any of the tenths, for example, so 1.1, 0.2, 0.3, etc. So on a number line, if you could visualize it, here's your 1%. These are all your tenths. And you also have, for example, quarters, for example. So there's your 1%, there's your half. Notice that the half is always in the same spot. So whether you find 0.5 or a half of a percent, it's the same thing. Here's a quarter between 0.2 and 0.3. There's 3/4 between 0.7 and 0.8, so 0.75. And for example, here's 1%. We can also go into fifths. So these are the 3 types that I kind of like to focus on, because that's probably all that students can really handle. These are kind of tough. So we're going to show you some examples here. And so, for example, here we have 0.5% of 60. The first thing I want to do is find 1%, and then I'm going to divide that in 2. So you first of all find 1%, and then you divide it in 2. So back to our first lesson, 1% means moving your decimal over twice. So that'd be 1, 2. So that's like 60 cents, right? But you divide 60 cents in 2, that's like 30 cents. So 0.5% of 60 or a half of a percent of 60, same thing. This is 0.30 because it's 60 cents divided in 2. Okay, so once again, we have 0.25% of 80, or in other words, a quarter of a percent of 80, same thing. It involves that first we have to find 1%, and then we divide it in 4, because a quarter of a percent is a quarter of 1. So we divide it in 4. So 1%, we move your decimal over twice, or divide by 100. So that's like 80 cents. 80 cents divided in 4. If you think money, it's easy. So 80 cents divided in 4, that's 20 cents, and that's our answer. Okay. 3/4, kind of a 2-step, or 0.75%. We first have to find 1%, and then we want to divide it in 4, as that gives us a quarter of a percent. Then we want to multiply it by 3, as that gives us 0.75. If you look back to the cheat sheet, you can kind of see it a little simpler. So first off, if we have 1%, we find that first. We divide it in 4, we get a quarter. We triple it, and we have 3/4. So first find 1/4, then we triple. And that's what I've got here. Right? So we find 1% of 40. So we move it over once, twice. That's 40 cents. 40 cents divided in 4 is like 10 cents. But we want 3/4, so I triple that, and that's 30 cents. So that's our answer. So a little bit trickier than the other ones. All right, so moving on. We have the 0.1s. So the 1s, 0.1, 0.3, 0.6, 0.9, those are all the tenths, correct? So 1/10, 3/10, 6/10, 9/10. All right? So it's very simple to find 0.1. That's 1/10. First of all, we find 1%, and then we divide it by 10, and that'll give us our 0.1. So 1%, move our decimal over once, twice. That's like 50 cents. Now, if you think money, 50 cents divided in 10, that's like a nickel. So that's 0.05. That's very important that we know 0.1 of 50, because all these other examples now, they're all the same numbers, always of 50. I've just changed it to 0.3, 0.6, 0.9. So 0.1 is already done for me at a nickel. So once I have that, if I know 0.1%, then to get 0.3, I would just triple. To find 0.6, I start again with 0.1, and I times by 6. So I have 0.1 again already done for me. I already found it. So 0.3, you just take that number times 3. That number times 6. 0.9 is 0.1%, and you times it by 9 to get 0.9. So it always it's two-step. First you find 1%, then you find a tenth. That's why I'm dividing by 10 to get this answer. Then I triple to get this, times 6 to get that, times 9 to get that. All right, anyway, I think most students can do this. A nickel times 3, that's 15 cents. A nickel, remember these are always a nickel, right? 0.1. We already got that from the first one. So a nickel times 6, that's 30 cents. And a nickel times 9 is 45 cents. Okay, so that's how we do the 0.1s. Pretty simple. So we're going to do some examples now once we kind of got that as a base. So here's the first example, 112% of 20. And that actually I meant to say that was 112 and 0.5, or 1/2%. We squeeze that in right there. So 112 and 1/2%. So first what I have to do is I get 100%, because we're breaking up the whole percent, and we can get the 10%, we can get the 1, a 1, and then I need 1/2%, which is this is 1/2%, it's half of this number that I'm going to get here. So we got 112 and 1/2%. So 100% of 20 is 20. 10% of 20, if you remember from our previous lesson, we move it over just once, that's 2. 1% is moving it over twice. So 1, 2, this is money, 20 cents. This is also 20 cents. Now 1/2% is half of 1, so half of 20 cents is 10 cents. When we add all of that together, thinking of money, we have $22, and all of those make 50 cents. So we have 22.50. Pretty straightforward. Okay, next one. We have 78 3/4% of 40. So breaking up the 78, I have 50, 25, using our cheat sheet numbers, right? 1, 1, and 1. There's our 78. Now I need my 3/4. And remember, to get 3/4, I find 1/4 first, and then I times it by 3. So a quarter is a quarter of this answer I'm going to get. It's a quarter of 1, and then I triple. So 50% of 40 is 20. That's half. A quarter of 40, 25% means divide 4, that's 10. 1% means move your decimal over 1, 2. So that's 40 cents. 40 cents. 40 cents. Now 3/4, we find a quarter of that, and then we triple. So a quarter of 40 cents is a dime, or 10 cents, tripled. 10 cents times 3 is 30 cents. So now we add all of this up. So how my mind works here, I know right here I've got $1.20, 40, 40, and 40. So $1.20 and 30 is $1.50. All of this is $1.50. So it's 20, 30, and $1.50. So that's $31.50. That's our answer. Okay. Second last example that I've got here for you is 253. So we're going to go 100, 100, 50, 1, 1, 1. There's our 253. Now I need my 2/5. So I got to get 2/5, I need 1/5, and then I double it to get my 2/5. So 100% of 30 is 30. And that's 30. 50 is half of that, 15. 1%, move your decimal over 1, 2. So that's 30 cents. 30 cents and 30 cents. And then 1/5 is a fifth of this. So a fifth of 30 cents divided in 5, a fifth. So that's 6 cents times 2. So this is like 6 cents written like that times 2. That's 12 cents. That's the trickier part to do mentally. Now we add them all together. 30 and 30 is 60. That's 75. This is 90 cents. And so together all of this is $1.02. So it's 75 and $1.02. So it's 76.02. Final answer. And last example is 6.7%, a nice easy one. So first we find 5, then we find 1, and then we got to get 0.7. But to get 0.7, remember I have to find 0.1, and then I times it by 7 to get 0.7. And remember how we get 0.1, we got to find 1%. It's a tenth of this number we're going to get, right? 0.1 is a tenth of that. So 5%, remember how we find 5? First we got to find 10%, and then we divide it in 2. 10% means move it over just once, so that's 8. 8 divide 2, so that answer is 4. 1%, move your decimal twice. That's 80 cents. Okay? Now, this 0.7, first we find a tenth. A tenth is a tenth of that. So divide this number by 10. So that is 0.08, is 8 cents. And then we times that by 7. A little tricky if you don't know your times table, but 8 pennies times 7, that's 56. Okay? So putting these kind of two together, when you have 80 cents and 56 cents, we have $1.36. So we have 4 plus $1.36, that equals $5.36. So you can see that this is why I separated this group, because it's a little bit tougher. You should always start off with the first group, the easier group, before we head off to do this one. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope it helps. Have a good day.